Hi Belinda, we talked about this last night. I want to just go over again since I'm doing everybody's video. I want to give you that chance to have this recorded as well. Um, as I said, I really like this. I think you did a fantastic job. I love how you got the really illustrative kind of look to this. We talked a little bit about lighting last night and the fact that I thought maybe this shadow should be a little more distinct. If we're looking at the light source, it would be coming from over here in the top left because we've got a highlight here at the top of the beak and we've got a very bright highlight here at the back of the neck. So if we connect those two, and start looking at where those would kind of send our light source, it's going to be, the light source is going to be up in that neighborhood. Let me get rid of that for a minute and do it on a separate layer up here and just do it with a different color so you can actually see it and a little bit more weight. Okay, so light source would be coming from up here. So this area up here would be where the light would be coming from. If you look at that then, at this light source, then this leaf would be casting a shadow down here still. So you have to look at what's going to obstruct those light rays. And remember I said light is always going to travel in a straight line. So if I'm doing that, then I'm going to turn these shapes off and just make a combined layer with everything flattened. Turn the shapes back on. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to come in with the brush in blend in at about 30% or 40% probably, and I'm on a separate layer. I'm going to make the layers blend mode multiply so it acts just like a drop shadow. But see, you'd have a shadow coming in right there. You'd have a fairly good, and you have a good shadow coming in there, but it might be a little bit more pronounced because see how harsh the distinction is between that bright spot and those? That's going to give you the indication of how hard edged the shadow is. So I might come in here and make these shadows fairly deep. You don't want to lose all the detail in there, but make them fairly deep, and then come back in with your eraser tool and erase. And that's really, really hard edged. I might come down a little bit on that, give it a little bit more softness, but not quite as soft as a regular soft brush. But it's a little easier often to come in and trim it off rather than kind of see where it goes. Things that would stick out, like that leaf probably would stick out, that leaf probably would stick out. So those things might come out farther, like that. You can see that the direction where that leaf would come out. It would have a shadow under it, but it might also be casting a shadow up here. And again, sometimes it's easier to trim it back than to try and make it exactly the right shape the first time through. But see how that starts to give you a shape of what's going on. Another brush right here, right there, and again a little more. Don't be timid. I think I said that last night too. Don't be you don't have to be as soft a touch as you think with a lot of this stuff. You can give it a little bit more oomph. Right up here, that edge would be bright. So I'm on this layer where everything's combined. I'm just going to make a quick selection of that, and then, whoops, I was on the wrong layer, right there. And use the dodge tool to try and brighten that up a bit. Or I could use the clone tool and come in and brighten that edge. And then use the dodge tool, because that light should be hitting that edge of the flower right there. So, and right up here too maybe. So it's a matter of drawing those straight lines to your light source and then seeing what would impede it coming back on your image on your subject. So I'm going to get rid of those guys, leave the shadow there. The other thing we talked about was taking the brush tool, and I'm just going to use a little soft edge brush and zoom right in here, and just making that catch light in the eye a little bit more pronounced to give the eye just a little more life. And that makes such a difference, to just give the eye a little bit more light. The last thing we talked about, I'm going to merge these two layers together, was the fact that you've got so many options in the filter gallery up here, so that you could combine this filter with what you've done before on the bird, or you can combine many filters together. So for instance, we could come in here with the cutout filter and click OK. I want edge simplicity down because I want more detail. Edge fidelity or faithfulness is fine, and then go back and fade this gallery, this filter gallery filter, so that it softens everything, gives it an even more illustrative look. Or again, go back to filter gallery and add another filter, such as the dry brush or paint daubs, and soften that up again by bringing the filter gallery setting, the fading back, way back. But what it's going to do is just soften those really harsh lines to the point where, there you go. I think they're a little less, the option being that they're a little bit less abrupt than they were. Remember, now I can still go back and go, okay, I like it in here in the lighter areas, but I want that face to have the pop. So I'm going to come over to the merge down one, click on that, use the history brush Y at maybe 60-70%, because I know I want this to be really poppy and have a lot of detail right in there. Maybe that's even too much, so I'll go back to there and try it again at about 30%. There we go. I like that better. And that's going to bring back detail just in the areas where we want it, but leave those feathers looking a little softer. Just to give you some options about how you might reapproach this and give it just a little bit more. Again, don't be timid. Shadows and highlights are really cool things. Don't be timid about the catch light. And otherwise, really, you did a great job on this. Excellent work. So terrific having you in the class this semester.